everyone. Welcome to the Radical Geek YouTube channel for our Sunday night coffee talk. I see people already in the chat. Hungry Heath first again. Welcome Sherry. Hi Warden. Christina, yes, you are on time and actually early. And Jen is here. So we have quite a lot to talk about tonight, although very little of it will actually be the coffee once we get through the device and get it brewing. But lots of cool stuff, and we'll give people just a couple minutes to get rolling. So I had to double check. That was my spouse up there confirming that everything is looking good. Oh, and Naughty Nay Nay's here. Awesome. I'm glad the reminder worked. YouTube has been kind of flaky lately. I'm missing my notifications, and sometimes it tells me weird stats on the videos, but whatever. And thanks Jen, who saying they're glad I'm feeling better. I know it was just a short little reaction from the vaccine, so I don't know. I'm pleased as punch that I can have the vaccines now, because for a long time with the cancer, they were not always available to me. And let me tell you, getting the actual flu is just the worst. So, yep. I say, hey, Gigi's here. So, there are so many parts here, it's hard to get everything organized. So, I will sort of just piecemeal it all together and go through the parts with you. This fancy glass, which gets cool green screen effects, is the Brew Chamber. I'm going to start with this one first for just a second because we can talk about the coffee. I ground ahead of time so we don't have to listen to my grinder and I don't have to struggle with the hand crank. Visual Keto has joined us. I used a Robusto. However, I will tell you that Belgian coffee siphon brewers do really well with your standard Colombian Arabica coffee. But I really like the nutty strength of the Robusto coffee, and so that's what I'm using. And I just love the way it smells because it's only been ground a couple minutes ago. So you put about 4 hearty tablespoons, and it goes right into the brew chamber. Give a little shake to kind of even it out, and I'll show you where that goes in a second. The next piece that I'm going to show you is the heat source and also your serving vessel. This part is where we'll put the water. It has a hole in the top. There are some brands that has like this whole piece that comes off. I find them very fiddly. And just a little bit of water from washing it earlier leaked out. Let me just there we go. But yeah, so, but this one, and then it also has a hole where the vacuum seals up. You put about 250-ish milliliters or grams of water into it. And I'm going to do that while we're chatting here. I see Shauna has joined us, and Juju B. Welcome, everyone. And anyway, so you put that in here because I'll show you in a minute when we get everything set up. We'll tell you that while it's brewing, there's a lid for the brew chamber, but we don't use that lid until it's a little further along. It's a small hole, so it takes longer to fill it up. Alright, there we go. Now we can get that out of the way. Kind of nice to clean up a little bit, just give myself some space here. It's felt very crowded. So let's see, I will talk about the next thing so we can bring this forward. This is the brew stand. I'll bring it right in the middle in a minute, but since it's unwieldy and blocks everything, I wanted to talk through the parts first. So this is actually going to be our heat source. This little lamp is like it's a wick lamp. But it's not oil in there, it's denatured alcohol. Now, you fill it, to the top of the bulb, sort of like you do with an oil lamp, only it's denatured alcohol. This is what denatured alcohol looks like. And see if I can get that without the reflection. There you go. This denatured alcohol, you notice at the bottom it says fuel. You want to make sure that you're getting the one that's used for fuel, clean burning fuel, not the stuff that you use to like scrub parts off in the workshop. Now I can get that out of the way. There is a difference really, but that would be in the cleanliness of the burn. So now I can show you. Oh, it's leaking because, oh no, give me a second here. There's also a stop valve that prevents your water from leaking out so that you don't spill it all over your table like I did. I'm having a rough moment. Get the vacuum on here. Just a minute. It is. There we go. Little spillage happens sometimes. But, so, that's the next part. This is the siphon and the filter. And it has a stop seal here. Let me just move this out of the way. Oh, my fancy napkin. Now I'm going to have to use my towel that I should have used to clean up. But that's alright. Anyway, so this filter, however, there's another filter that goes on top of it. It looks like this. It's just a round piece of muslin cloth, and then it's double layered, double thick, and then it also has these two drawstrings. Before you use these, you usually you prep them ahead of time in hot water, which I've done here, and then you pull it out of here. I kind of prepped it ahead of time. Squeeze the extra water out because you don't need that. And it basically just wraps around this filter. And I've got it here so I can show you. And as you pull the drawstrings, it cinches up around. Give it a hearty tug. And now we can set it up here on the stand so you can see it all assembled. The balance brewer, it's a little bit fiddly, I got to admit, but it has little indentations. I'm going to hold it here for a second so I can put the heat source in, and then you let it go down. The next part is going to be putting the brew chamber in, which is also just a little bit on the fiddly side. And it just sits right in. You can adjust it a little bit. You kind of clunk around and get it situated. But you lift it so we can lift this up. Bring this down. Then you have your handy dandy lighter, which I need both hands to light. There we go. Like I said, fiddly, but awesomely fun. And evidently, there we go. Now here's the hard part. It takes forever, or at least it feels like it. So, let's see, let me come back to the comments. I see Rhonda has joined us. And Attila has joined us. MJ has joined us. Wow, welcome everybody. Oh, and JV Dub has joined us. So, just to recap, because I kind of started off right away, and then I had like all my little hysterical spilling. Your brew chamber, your coarse grind coffee. Actually, I shouldn't say coarse, medium grind. Sort of like about the texture you'd get out of a pre-ground coffee from the can, but only much better. I used a Robusto. Your filter that's attached to your siphon, and then your double thick muslin filter with a drawstring that attaches and you pull it to tighten. These coffee filters are not the cheapest, but that's all right because it's really about the quality. They usually come in like packages of 10. You know, like cheap paper filters, they come in like packs of like 100. But these are more, and unfortunately, you really can't reuse them. And you'll see why in a few minutes once this heats up and siphons over. what's going to happen with this is as this water heats up, the brew chamber, or rather the water chamber, is going to raise up. And as it raises up, water builds pressure and siphons over into the brew chamber. As this lifts up, because it gets lighter and lighter, the cover to the heat source will flop down over and extinguish it. So, as you know, science, what happens next is it cools down, and so the now brewed coffee siphons back over, and then you can serve it. So those are the basics of the balanced brewer. It does have like a little spigot over here, and in order to serve that, I'll put my glass right over. Let me get rid of this little bowl of water. And that's the basics of the balanced brewer. So I'm going to take a look here. Okay, whoa, my power just flickered. So anyways, let's see. Oh, Patty's not a coffee lover, according to JV Dub. But, you know, even if you don't love coffee, this is really cool. So I hope our power doesn't go out. It's really weird that it's flickering. So, but if it does, well, I'll catch you online. I see Tina has joined. Let's see. Rhonda, yes, it did come on, but I was anxious to get the coffee going because it takes so long to heat up and brew. So I was like super fast. Second, yeah, see, there was that's flickering. I have no idea what is going on. I want to blame our neighborhood kids because they have been outside today running abso-freaking-lutely wild. Like, I don't know if they got pent up for a couple days with the cold or what, and today it was actually not that bad. But they were off the chain in running in our street and having a good time. And before it sounds scary when I say running in the street, we actually have a little signs at the end. We live in a cul-de-sac that has no entry on one side. And so we put our little signs with the people that kind of block the cars from coming in. I'm sure it's probably not legal, but what do we care? Like, nobody comes here except for delivery guys, and our delivery guys park at the end of the street and race up and down the street with carrying packages. So it's good. They can run in the street. And, you know, everybody, it's one of those weird things to say, everybody knows, but yeah, we don't get high stranger traffic right through. We actually live right down the block from a park and all kinds of stuff, so it's easy. People are generally very good about being mindful of paying attention around here. So, but man, they were wild today. So let's see. Oh, there's some back and forth conversation. Oh, Heath being coy about his a beautiful Shelley steak wife, the warden. So, and then let's see. JV Dub mentions that DiCaprio has said he said if I knew what in the hell that meant, I might be inclined to take offense. You know, that does happen quite a lot. And MJ, no, I haven't gone over history yet. I'll get there. So, also those, you know, like on Sunday nights, you know, also since it's coffee, always I have my water to go with it. And I'll need that anyway, simply because gorgeous, yes, takes a while to brew, so it's not for patience. But I also always have my Sunday night treat. Now I will say I have actually in my refrigerator a chocolate J-Rob protein powder bundt cake that I made from a mug cake recipe, and that was supposed to be my treat tonight, but I'm gonna leave it there because I also was experimenting with that egg bread stuff today, and I made big angel food cakes and pizza buns and all kinds of stuff, and I used the leftovers in like these little mini bun silicone molds, and so I've got this angel food cake. And it's soft and actually really angel food cakey in texture. I know that's not a great explanation, but you know what I mean. And initially I thought I might bring whipped cream down for it, but I thought it would deflate. So I do have a little bit of an allulose syrup there with some in there, and I thought that might be fun for my treat tonight. Plus, you know, it's mostly egg protein and then allulose for the sweetener, so not really bad at all. Wow, you guys, it's getting crazy. So anyways, let's see. I haven't gone over the history. Rhonda has asked how I'm doing. I'm doing great. I know I complained a lot about not feeling well, but it was really, I knew it was really temporary. And even by the time I went to bed, I was feeling basically back to normal. So pretty cool. So let's see. Oh, and the warden shares they're making caramel cookie Nespresso now. I gotta say, I've been tempted to buy myself another Nespresso, even though I think I probably have enough coffee things right at the moment. But they are really convenient, and we have a Keurig and some Keurig pods, but they're just like okay, desperate coffee. The Nespresso makes surprisingly good coffee, and so I wouldn't be sad to have that. But the first one I had broke like after a year and a half, and so I got kind of salty for a bit. And that was, I don't know. So since I got irritated about it, I just didn't want to get another one right away. And I just left it. Plus, it's not like as if the espresso isn't a big deal. And Naughty Nene says it probably annoys some folks with the weekly name changes. Doesn't bother me at all, because I always know that the unusual name, if they're casually speaking, is probably you. So, yeah. And I don't know if you can hear the bubbling, but I can tell you water is starting to come into the chamber. Hopefully you can see it. And that excites me because it means in just a moment, when it gets up, I'm going to poke in there and give it a little bit of a stir. Once it covers the grounds completely, that's when I like to poke in there and make sure it stirs them up. You don't necessarily have to do that, and a lot of people don't, but with all brews like this where you put it in, I always feel it really enhances it and gets things going. Now you can hear it, and you can see this slowly rising. The water's really going up there. Just going to take a moment to enjoy the art. There it goes, and the heat has extinguished. So now it'll cool down, and you see the water went up there. You can see too much of it spilled because now it's going to be extra strong. But as it cools down, this level is going to start going down as it siphons back over. There it goes. I don't know if it's a little subtle or not, but you can slowly see the balance changing as it sucks back over. So that was it. I know it was really short, but I think it was super, super cool, and I love the science of the vacuum and siphoning back and forth. We'll say that the negatives now is this a real pain in the ass to clean, because you have to wait for it to cool down, then you have to go and disassemble it and get everything flowing through it, and the grounds are stuck in there. The filter's a pain to get off of there, but it's so artsy, it's so beautiful, it's so sciencey. It's just a lot of fun. I'm going to turn it to the side for the serving portion, but I'm going to let it sit for a minute and just develop a little. So I see Caboodle Bry has joined us and mentions that he also loves the reverse siphon, which one of these lives we'll do another siphon. I do have a vertical Japanese siphon, so that'll be fun to show too. There's so much, they're just so awesome. So Naughty Nene makes a definite nerd joke. No disassemble number 5. Input is what is required. So anyway, so now in order to get this into my glass, you've got to loosen this and you play with the valve. And you get it, and it will pour into the cup. It's not as strong as sometimes, but it'll develop and I will have a lovely cup. But as you can see just from the steam, it is always super hot. So it has to sit for a while before I can even take a sip. So let me take a look here at the comments. Let's see. JV Dub says he loved the French name, so that was bestowed upon him. His older brother's name is also French, and I don't know how to say that name. But he says he goes by now. I'm going to close this off because it is getting to be quite full. And any leftover coffee I'll just pour off into a thermos later, but there's not going to be much in there. I see Pam Giles has joined us. JV Dub shares that his parents thought he was supposed to be a girl and they were going to name him Autumn Cherie. That's pretty clever. Lots of hellos and good evenings. So we can just sit there just in case it might drip. But we'll let that sit. It's a nice cup here. And then I'll start talking about some of the history. Let me see. So the actual Belgian vacuum brewer or balance brewer or siphon brewer, those are all common words that are used for this particular thing, was invented in 1830. Oh, Newt. Okay. So it was invented by 1830 by Leaf of Berlin. And in 1840, Madame Vassou of Lyons, France, was able to commercialize this brewer and bring it to the table and get it manufactured. It was a brand new brewing method, and really she wanted to put it out there, not only to have something new and innovative that developed a good cup of coffee, but also during that time frame, things were very elaborate, and it was really something that they wanted to have for an appealing showpiece for brewing. Caboodle Bry has asked if this is a double-walled cup. It is. So, well, it's hard because it's clear glass, but yes, this is the double-walled Bodum. And I do love it. It's one of my favorite cups. I like to use these all the time. So, anyway, so it's later on. It's not as late as the vehicle that we talked about last week, but it's definitely not as early as, the Turkish Ibrik back in year 1000. So, fairly modern. And it actually, but all of this technology came racing to the forefront all at once. Right around that same time that Madame Vassou was putting this to market, over in Scotland, let me think for a second, there was an inventor there. His name was Napier. He also invented a siphon brewer and tried to market it, but he was not as fast on the draw as Madame Vassou, and so he never actually patented his. Oops. Just so you know, if you are brilliant and you invent something, you need to put in for the patent. Don't worry if you put it in and someone else beat you and someone else invented it, or 10 people come up with it once. First comes first. And so they'll get the patent. Anyways, so he kind of got screwed, but at the same token, he did get the most insulting award ever, but also very cool, because in 1856, the Institution of Mechanical Engineering gave him an award for exhibiting his pot, and told him his award was for, and here's the sad part, entertaining guest. Oh, poor Napier. So brilliant, and yet just, boy, it's like a prestigious award, but they had to just give that little smack with it, right? So, anyways, let's see. Oh, Naughty Nene says that Hungry Heath needs to patent the Texas 5 Spice. Man, I don't know if they give patents for that, but his blend is really good. It is very tasty. The warden says they were supposed to be named Joy Linda. Oh my, that's a rough on the tongue. It's really pretty though. Let's see. More hellos back and forth, so we won't worry about that. So anyways, all across the world, these siphon brewers and vacuum brewers were really getting very popular because they made really great cups. They weren't harsh like e-bricks or presses and percolators, and they were all just really, sorry, but they are gorgeous. So, however, they didn't make it to the United States until the early 1900s. Now, there's a little bit of controversy about that. We'll say that in 1910, a couple sisters, Butler and Sutton were their names, were from Salem, Massachusetts, and they filed for a patent here in the United States for the Cylex vacuum brewer. Manufacturer, they got it all going with the Corning Glassware Company out of New York. So you do get to see, if you go to the Corning Museum in upstate New York, in Corning, of course, they have the Cylex in there, and it is glorious. She's not here tonight, but Susan B. has mentioned Corning before as well. Pyrex, actually, which is a division, because they have a clear glassware percolator. So those clear glass stuff is always super cool. But the Cylex vacuum, I don't have one. I have been trying to find one, but like a lot of Corning ware from the 1900s, vintage glass is not always easy to come by, and a lot of it is not all in one piece. So it's also pricey. So I'm waiting until I find that just right bargain. So I see that Jen is asking how many countries have been traveled to, but I don't know if they mean me or JV-Dub. I have traveled to a lot of countries, but most of them have been in Asian regions like Japan and Korea and India. So just kind of varies in that regard. But I think JV-Dub has been to a lot more places. So let's see. Oh, Hungry Heat says his mother ruined a Corning ware trying to cook a mixed veg on the stove. Oh, did it explode? Yeah, that's bad. And the reason that they explode on the stovetop is because of the differential in the heating, whereas in the oven, it's surrounded all the way and gets an even heat, so it doesn't crack and explode. Although it can, if your house is like super cold, then you bring the Corning ware out and it hits from the hot air into the freezing cold, it actually can crack and break apart. It's such a tragedy when that happens. So anyways, back to that. So these sisters got the patent in the United States for the Cylex brewer. And lots of people did not love that, and it's hard to know whether it's sexism, or since there's no real proof that they invented it, if they stole it from somewhere, if they took advantage of someone else's design. It's all a lot of mystery surrounding that, so it's one of those fun controversial things. But you know what, they have the patent, so as I said, hey, they were smart enough to put the patent request in, so whatever. So Visual Keto says they have several Pyrex percolators. That's exciting. I don't have one. I keep wanting to get one, but all the ones I have found have chips, and I am unwilling to settle for something with a chip because then you can't actually use it. And I'm one of those people. If I have stuff, I want to use it, not just have it look pretty on my shelves. So, it is what it is. So I'm going to just slide this off. maybe not all the way because it is the topic of the day. And it does look super cool. I'm going to get my big spoon, my big giant soup spoon, which we'll talk about using these later. And I'm going to do like a semi-rude thing, but a fun coffee thing. And just because it's so hot, I still want to taste it. And you can see it's a nice rich brewed coffee. It's perfect. Anyway, slurping coffee is a great thing. It actually helps develop the flavor of the coffee as it goes into your mouth, because it kind of makes it spray out. It's really good. I got it good today. Yesterday, I actually used this just to make sure I didn't have anything malfunctioning, and I remembered how because it had been a while. And I put too much coffee in it, and it was a bit on the extra strong side, and I had to, I was almost tempted to put something in it, but I eventually just drank it. So that's really, like I said, because it's newer and it's very pretty, but there's not a lot to the Balance Brewer. So, but never worry, I did say that I had a really cool topic to fill the time. And if you have any questions, we can talk about them as well. I'm going to take a bite of this angel food. The syrup solidified. Oops. I guess I'm not having that. That's alright. Just plain angel food with the coffee is going to be just fine. It's really good. So anyways, last week on our live stream, someone asked me about low acid coffee because regular coffee hurts their bladder. And I said I would look up some info on low acid coffees, but typical of a geek, that wasn't really enough for me. I looked it up and I wasn't getting a lot of great information. So I made an appointment with a urologist and went to see the urologist, which, you know, was probably a crazy thing to do on my behalf. But you know what? At least I'm respectful of their time, and I made my appointment and went over a lot of old lady stuff anyways. So Visual Keto says they wouldn't use chipped glassware either, even Pyrex. Yeah, it's not a good practice. So anyways, I go to see this urologist, and I go and after waiting for quite some time, the Zoom starts, and he says, you know, hey, we'll talk through and then determine if you need to come in to get tests, because, you know, but, you know, all medical appointments they always do the first one via video. And then I had to say, like, well, you know, I don't actually have problems myself. I just really needed to ask a lot of questions. To which he was like, well, that's very unconventional, and gave me like a little bit of a lecture. And I was like, well, you know, I'm still paying for this time. So I told him about bladder pain from the caffeine from the coffee being discussed, and low acid. And I guess it must have been of interest to him, because he said, well, actually, and this is your reminder here that I am not a doctor, and even though he's a doctor, this is not medical advice, but his real advice is that if you are experiencing discomfort of any sort with your bladder, you absolutely need to make an appointment with your doctor, because it could be many things. Now, what he did say was, if you're having discomfort in your bladder, whether it's pain or frequency to need to urinate or pressure or any of those things, that you need to go see someone. However, he said that these are early symptoms for overactive bladder or interstitial, I hope I said that right, cystitis. Now, the overactive bladder has one of two major causes, well, three really. And the first one would just simply be age, especially in women. The second one is as part of a urinary tract infection. Yes, it was Blue Dove who asked about this particular topic. So I feel kind of bad that they're not actually here in the live, but they'll catch the replay. They'll be interested in a lot of the things I'm going to say. Anyway, so UTI, however, he said a huge amount of issues for those symptoms is actually diet related. And which of course, as you know, was exciting and interesting to me. And suddenly I was fully engaged with my litany of questions. Now, he went back and he said the interstitial cystitis is also almost exclusively dietary caused. And when he says almost exclusively, he means like 90%. So they're right, that is a lot. So let's see. Let me pop into the chat here because I see stuff rolling. Mostly it's conversation back and forth. So, but let's see. Naughty Nene says they meal prepped 2 pounds of ground beef with a package of chorizo, and it's really good. Oh, that does sound good. I made pizza buns, but I think that I do have some smoked ground beef in the freezer that I think I'm going to pull out and mix up with maybe some of that Texas 5 spice and some other chili things, and maybe a spoon of tomato paste to kind of make it that sloppy joesy, spicy kind. And make myself some stuffed sloppy joes type buns. So anyways, back to that. Yeah, so almost exclusively diet caused, which is of great interest to most of us. And he said oh yeah, I'll be talking about Air Frying Auntie is asking what kind of diet causes the interstitial cystitis and overactive bladder. Yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about next, and it gets deep. You will not believe what this all points to in my head, and I'm sure many of you on here will come to the same conclusion. He says the other things that can cause it is an allergy or histamine response, but the real problem, while acid is a contributor, when it comes to coffee, the culprit is actually more than the acid is the caffeine. So switch to, and I'm sorry, I know this is like the terrible thing to say, try a decaf and see if that helps. If the decaf doesn't help, then the coffee has to go. Same for a lot of teas, black and green, or anything that has caffeine. Also, chocolate, even though it only has 1/7 of the amount of caffeine as a cup of coffee, can be a culprit. The reason why is because caffeine is higher in the neurostimulatory response. So who knew? Tied to your brain. As you know, though, the keto and your brain works together. So yeah. So he says gluten is your next high problematic issue. Not gluten allergy like celiac, but gluten intolerances tend to trigger the response that leads to the interstitial cystitis. So after you have narrowed down your caffeine consumption and you're not seeing market improvement, the next thing you need to cut out would be your gluten. So he says after that, you do want to start looking at your acids, which would be your tomatoes, your citric acids, and oh, sad tear. Please never let this happen to me. Your spicy foods gotta go. Again, because they're quite stimulatory, and the acid in there can impact your digestive system in such a way that it can lead to overactive bladder or interstitial cystitis. He says also, so that's your acidic foods, so your citric acid and your super spicy foods. Guess, I'm just wondering if any of you can guess what his next item. So we've got our caffeine, your gluten, and your acids. So I'm sure that the next item might not be a huge surprise to many of us, but is probably a tremendous surprise to the populace at large. Let's see. Alright, people aren't playing my fun games and I have no patience, so I'm just going to spoil it. So, although JV Dub says that's where Patty's at. That's how she found out she had celiac, so she does no wheat or gluten and cannot handle spicy foods. And ding ding ding, Air Fried Auntie gets surprised. Sugar is the next thing. He's sugar, and he says sugar derivatives or sugar-related high glycemic things like your agave or your maple syrups, corn syrups. He says you should cut that out. That it's really terrible, and it's definitely bad for your bladder health. So he's not a fan of sugar. It was not something I was expecting to hear from the urologist, to say don't eat sugar. He also says that artificial sweeteners can be harsh on your system, and he says when he says that, he is talking saccharin and sucralose, and he did make a point of saying, though, that however they are not nearly as bad as actual sugar and sugar derivatives. He did say fruits and natural sugars like fructose and dextrose and all of the ose things are also super bad, and they've got to go if you're having severe bladder issues. So, starting to sound to me like if you have bladder issues, keto is going to be super good for you, as if it's not already pretty good for a lot of other things. But and the warden says it's almost like we shouldn't be eating gluten or sugar. Like, right? Everything he was saying, I could hear Dr. Barry getting worked up in my head. 'Cause you know how he gets kind of off the rails and ranty sometimes, which, by the way, is sometimes my favorite. I love when he gets on a good rant. But, yeah. So, sugar. And then, to no surprise, he says onions and other nightshades could be impacting, but they're less risk than many of the other foods. But if you've gone through all of the other things so far, there's your next step. He says you can really, people who've got a lot of bladder problems really have to watch their diet. And so onions, and then after that, your carbonated beverages. He says carbonation is especially harsh on your digestive system. And I said I drink a lot of carbonated beverages, especially my sparkling water. And he said, if I've got a healthy bladder, it's not an issue. But if I start having a lot of symptoms with an urgent need to urinate, or anything, or if I get bladder pains, that kind of stuff, yeah, you would need to cut it out. But he says he doesn't think people should drink sodas. You shouldn't be drinking energy drinks, which of course I love my Bang energy drinks, so I will continue to drink them. And not effervescent drinks, because that is a type of carbonation. So all the Zip Fizz lovers, if you have bladder problems, your Zip Fizz has got to go. And no soda water. Weirdly, his carbonated beverages comment comes before the next one, which is alcohol. Like, I would have thought alcohol would be higher up the chain there, but it came after the carbonated beverages. He said you shouldn't drink if you've got bladder issues. Alcohol will irritate everything. He says it's a diuretic, and also it makes you forget that you're thirsty and prevents you from properly hydrating. It dehydrates you, and being dehydrated while also intaking diuretics will make your bladder problems 1,000 times worse. So, boy, just like all the fun stuff. I did not, and I'm being asked by Nadine if I tried the chocolate or watermelon bang. I did not try the chocolate. I haven't been to a store in ages where I would buy bangs, so I haven't actually seen it in the store. And I got like some weird Facebook deal from some guy who had some froze roses for a case for $10. And that was such a good deal that I bought 2 cases, so it whittled my way through that. I will say that I've really backed off of the Bang energy drinks. For a while I needed one like every day. And I don't know, I just managed to whittle it back, and now I have like half of one a couple times a week. So just worked out that way. I did get the wild and watermelon, and it was good, but it wasn't my favorite. I liked the strawberry delight more, which is weird because I'm usually actually quite wild about watermelon, but it is what it is. So the last thing that he said was one of the most important things, and that was cranberries. He said, stop drinking that darned cranberry juice. Cranberry juice equals bad. He said, for whatever reason, it has all the popularity of people drinking cranberry juice for UTIs, but most of the time they don't actually have UTIs. They actually have overactive bladder that is flaring, or a precursor to the interstitial cystitis, in which case what they are actually doing by drinking cranberry juice or taking cranberry pills. And he said cranberry juice is much worse than the pills. The cranberry does have all of the acid, but once you're drinking cranberry juice, you're piling on your high acids, your high diuretic, and your sugar. Even the low sugar one is terrible. And he says you're actually exacerbating your symptoms instead of getting better. So now you know, cranberries do not help UTIs. That is a myth, a very popular myth. So, oh, and Nadine mentions that the Bang that they pour into a 20-ounce bottle so they can close with the screw top and drink it over a couple of days. So, yeah, and not finishing a soft drink at once, same. Which is a big change from my previous food habits, because man, I used to drink soda all day long, every day. So yeah, Visual Keto says they would die because they just stocked up on Bang and Zip Fizz. I know. The more he was talking about the coffee, I was like, ooh. Please never let me get overactive bladder or any of those things, because I will be out of this world without my coffee. I really love it. So, the warden says she bets meat helps with UTIs. I wonder. I don't know. I don't know if they've made that study yet, but it would probably be worth checking out. Now, we'll say the other thing that we brought up in last week's discussion was the adaptogenic coffees. So about that, you should know that a lot of them do still contain caffeine. So if you have a bladder that is easily irritated, a lot of them are not going to work for you, because things that are in those adaptogenic coffees, a lot of them are cacao based, so there's your caffeine and your acid. Masala chai is high caffeine. So yeah, those are no good. Now, I will say though, there are some, don't come at me, passable decafs that are also low acid decafs. And the brands for those would be Rasa and Pedro. So those are two brands that have a low acid decaf coffee. Now, with a fair warning, decaf still has caffeine. So if you switch to one of these brands and you still have problems, you know the answer, just like everything else. If it bothers you, you have to just cut it out. Doesn't mean it'll be easy, but that is what has to happen. So, I'm really surprised. I'm going to try and get into this syrup, even though it basically became jelly. So, anyways, I'm really surprised by how many people try to justify continuing to eat gluten, and manufacturers who make products that are full of gluten, but they put that big keto certified label on it because it's totally unregulated. And I know that we say when we eat keto or any variant of the proper human diet, that we say no food is keto or not keto, it's what you can eat. But there are some foods, and I don't mean to be the food police, but there are some foods that are of minimal impact, so it's no big deal. It's an allulose with a flavoring added into it, but it was nice and liquidy when I brought it down, and now it is jelly. So oops, not completely jelly because it's dripping, but it's pretty good. My drawer in the fridge is a cheese drawer. 100%. I have a cheese drawer, and then I have like a meat drawer that's like meat sticks and current bacon packets, that kind of thing. So I think I've got like a summer sausage in there and some packs that are like one cheese, one meat stick. I've got a Prasix smoked sausage in there for snacking. That's what I use that drawer for. Vegetables, schmegetables. At any rate, so yeah, so anyways, the adaptogenic coffees, you're going to have to watch the ingredients. And then I wanted to rant about the wheat and the gluten. So, yeah, okay, don't be the food police. But I just see so many people turning to products, and I know I'm eating a product right now, my angel food cake, but my angel food cake is egg whites and allulose and a couple egg yolks. So honestly, oh, and 1 tablespoon of coconut flour to give it the texture for the angel food. So there's a difference, and I'm sorry, I just feel like they're playing with nutrition label trickery to make people think that they are having something great for them, and instead they're doing more harm on their body. When you find out how many health things gluten impacts, I just don't understand how these manufacturers live with themselves, because they're just feeding on the diet industry and people who are desperate, and they're just taking advantage of that. So it really chased my hide. Don't be the food police and tell people what to eat and what not to eat. And, yeah, so great, some people can tolerate it, but if you've gone through all the trouble to start eating keto, you probably have health issues that you're hoping to work on. And gluten is just an ingredient that you really ought to start looking at. And JV Dub says, we are so the food police when it comes to food allergies, and I won't apologize for that. Patty's been hospitalized twice with pancreatitis, so it's a life-death situation for her. Yeah. I mean, I try not to be like an asshole about it, but if people aren't asking my opinion, and since this is my YouTube, I can just flap my jaws however I want. I'm not talking to anyone directly, and if they want to be upset, well, that's probably why I had a couple people unsubscribe. So, okay, that's all right. Gluten is just so terrible for so many people. And let's see. And then JV Dub also mentions that many people go gluten-free for a dietary purpose, but there are 1 in 100 folks who have celiac, and for them it's life or death. 100%, exactly. And I think that just by this kind of conversation that I had with the urologist, it's more than just allergy. And I used to be one of those people way back where I said, poo. You know, the amount of populace that's celiac is very minuscule, and all of the trending of gluten-free is just manufacturing, you know, hysteria. But I was wrong. I was wrong. So, anyways, Naughty Nene says they're upset. That's it. We'll throw down. I guess we're fighting. It'll be sexy. So, anyways. So, but this is only coming at us on her foods. I don't push that on others, just ourselves. And that's from JV Dub about Patty. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But the other thing, though, is that it happens over and over again. And this is where it upsets me, is that manufacturers put these things out and they label them keto-friendly or healthy or things like that. And they've got ingredients, and they're using trickery based on the guidelines allowed in the nutrition labels. And people think they're doing the right thing and following all the rules, and they don't understand why they're not getting better, or why, if weight loss is their goal, why they're not experiencing weight loss, or it's slowing down, or they're having stomach problems. And, well, this is why. Food manufacturers are taking advantage of people and harming them. And I really hope that there's a day when enough studies come forward that eventually they can start being held accountable and responsible. So, the warden says they would pay to watch us fight. So, yep. Naughty Nene says that they're going to bring their Subaru and buy a suit. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to lose at that point. So, and JV Dub says we can thank Monsanto for the increase in celiac. 10 years ago, it was in 1 in 1,000, and now it's 1 in 100 and getting worse. Yeah, actually, it's something that we've talked about in our house, is that way back when, not only did people not eat as many grains, the grains they ate were not the grains of today. And the way that they've been processed and gone through was just, it's changed the food. So, and humans weren't necessarily designed to eat that way. It might seem like it, but yeah, let's see. Oh, and JV Dub says he had to throw out a box of keto fat bombs from Slim Fast as they had wheat gluten in them. If there's wheat in it, it's not keto. Oh, keto fat bombs from Slim Fast had wheat in them? I thought the ingredients on those were good, at least the ones I used to get. I used to love the Slim Fast fat bombs. Which ones had the gluten in it? I'm so irritated. So, and then the warden says that at Costco, every keto labeled product had sugar in it, like real sugar, as the main ingredient. Yeah, what was up with that? I understand if, like, in the ingredients list, because it does say, I spent a long time, a deep dive on that, on the FDA website, reading through hundreds upon hundreds of pages on nutrition labels, and they do say it's their guideline, but it's not a law. just a guide, that ingredients should be listed from most to least. And so I understand if sugar is listed all the way down at the bottom, that is probably minuscule enough that it's not going to give me like a big headache to consider whether I might eat it or not. And maybe I might make an exception once in a while. That's going to be a very rare exception. I'm not a fan of a lot of those things. But, and I don't mind like a slice of tomato or something like that, of course. But when I see coconut nut clusters and they have a great big label keto, I personally expect it to be coconut that's maybe been lightly toasted, mixed together with some roasted nuts, and then mushed into a ball that got coated with dark chocolate. That's what I expect if it's labeled keto, and 100% I would buy that. I would totally be all over it. I do not expect to go and see that something has a starch and then the next ingredient is cane sugar and have that wearing the great big label that says keto on it. Why even bother? Yeah, and the warden says that the products had sugar as the second or third ingredient. Coconut clusters, that's the number one that stands out in my mind because I forget until I get there and I look through all the packages and I get it and I think, oh, how bad could they be? And I turn it over and the second ingredient is cane sugar. Not even like, yeah. Anyways, I've just gone off the rails. So, back to adaptogenic coffees. So, I will tell you that like there are some of those adaptogenic coffees that is made from like a mushrooms, and if they're not mixed in with a cacao, but they're mixed in with like other herbs, like a turmeric or a ginger, and they don't have the caffeine component added to it, those are great alternatives for your bladder health. Also, he seemed to be a big fan of like turmeric infusions. So you could always have like your a nice little almond milk, warm it up with the turmeric in it and a little bit, that would be really awesome, and a nice comforting warm beverage in the evening, especially on a cold night. So, and the other thing that I'm a big fan of too would be like a strong ginger infusion. So you could always go with some non-caffeinated herbal infusions. There's a lot of those that don't have any acids in them. And then Rhonda mentions that ketogenesis is a state. So if your carbs are low, you can still be in ketosis, but ingredients do matter, and bad ingredients don't always stop you from being in ketosis, which is true, 100%. And while being in ketosis is a priority, if you are trying to do things though, and here's where I want to expand on that and why we do get sometimes food policing, and where it matters when people are calling foods a special thing is because if you are trying to do things like maybe deal with arthritis pain or deal with if you have GERD or other things like that, those health issues are not just impacted by ketogenesis, but ketogenesis paired with ingredient management. And sometimes we're only focused on the weight loss piece, in which case, by all means, eat whatever you want as long as you can maintain some level of ketones. But if you are also looking for the health management component and for things like inflammation reduction or evidently, as it turns out, this urologist did not even know that he was basically screaming keto into my face. It'll help with your bladder health. So I can tell you that my rheumatologist is a huge fan of therapeutic keto, which does go through ingredient restrictions. You guys, I have such a laundry list of ingredients that I'm not supposed to have in It also pairs pretty much with what my neurologist demands that I not have to deal with the seizures. It just is everything that you hear, like the very extreme food police complain about. That's not keto. Whereas some of them for a lot of people would be no big deal. Yeah, that's on the list of things that I'm not allowed to have. But so sometimes when I can have things that I know others can't have, I'm definitely way more invested in those foods. So, yeah, the other thing too that he mentioned could impact the bladder health was going to be that anything that other allergens outside of your food. So if you have, who would have ever figured this out? If you have like allergies to certain scented things, or maybe you're highly sensitive to like poison ivy or other or grass allergies, and you're having a frequent histamine response to those things, did you know that that could impact your bladder? Can you imagine? So I never would have made that connection. Never in a million years would I have thought that having an allergy out in the garden might give me a bladder infection. But suddenly it makes some weird sense, because I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 years ago, because time blends together. I will say, I guess it was 2 years ago, because it would have been, maybe, actually no, not even a whole, it would be a year ago, because the pandemic had started. So I was out in my yard, and I had decided that we were going to clear this one patch and make my the seating area, which this summer I'll show you, it's super cool. We made like this big brick circle and put red mulch down. It has 2 trees and then a swing under it. But previously it was like this big giant swath of like vines and flowers and everything, and it was just so overgrown and unwieldy. And I knew there was some poison ivy in there, but I didn't worry about it because I have never been really reactive to poison ivy. But as I was ripping through these plants, I got bit up by a swarm of ants, and so that was not good. But I went back out and continued ripping at the plants and started getting another reaction and had like trouble breathing, like the whole 9 yards. It was really severe. Wound up with like all kinds of stuff, a bout of intramuscular Benadryl, which it was my first time learning that was a thing. And it turns out, after all the testing, my allergy is to a very mundane thing that most people have no problems with. It's Queen Anne's lace. And my allergic reaction was so severe that we got I got permission from the city, based on the feedback from my doctor, that I could hire a landscaper to come in and do the whole kill all of everything, even though it was not too far from some drainage. So, but they deemed that because it was medically necessary to come and remove the Queen Anne's lace and anything related to that, which would have been hogsweed or any hemlock or chicory root, or there was like a whole slew of plants like that. While it's not the kind related to the kind you eat, wild parsnip. So I never would have known. I never would have figured that these were tied until I had this conversation yesterday. But during the whole allergy thing, when I was nearly dying, I got a UTI, and I couldn't figure it out, like why. As it turns out, it might have been triggered by the whole allergy and all of the stuff there. So there's one of those weird facts. Let's see. And then the warden says that was one, and then other 3 items with keto were written huge on the bag, had problematic ingredients. And then said there was one doctor in New Zealand that basically told them to go keto without using the word keto. That is so true, guys. I find sometimes people are very resistant to like keto things, but if you just say like, hey, I'm following some healthy eating guidelines based from the feedback from my doctor, people are like, wow, that sounds great. All your food looks awesome. Okay. If I take loaded cauliflower and tell them that this is one of my favorite dishes, which it is, it's cauliflower with cream cheese and bacon and cheddar cheese and chives and salt and pepper and chili flakes, and then it's baked until it's all brown and delicious looking. People love it. If I went in and said this is a keto side dish, nobody would touch it with a 10-foot pole. It's the same thing. Sorry, I need to stop for a drink. Got something on my arm. Anyways, they say, let's see. Then Hungry Heath mentions that he can eat whatever he wants. He simply chooses not to eat things that derail his health and cause another MS flare-up. Exactly. And Rhonda says she agrees. She gets upset when people talk about dirty keto because dirty keto will not alleviate inflammation. And that's what they're not telling you when they talk about how they do keto. And that can be upsetting. I agree. You know, if it works for some people, fine. But I actually feel like a lot of times, you know, because I have put it out there, I was like, if you are not comfortable, because I always tell people, if you're having these issues, because they'll say they're not losing weight or XYZ is happening and they don't really know, but they're doing everything, I always tell them what they need to do is post that what their current statistics are, everything that they know about their current, and along with food logs for like 2 to 3 weeks. And I know, even within the privacy of our groups, that can be a hard ask for people to share their weight, to share if they know what their cholesterol is, to share their body fat percentage, to share their height, to share their age. I know that that's a big ask, and for some people, they're not there yet. So I say, if you can't post that, and you still really want to deep dive with someone, I don't mind if you message me. I'm not going to charge you like keto coaching prices. Now, the local keto store near me has asked if I would do some keto coaching, and they gave me the price that they would charge and what I would make out of it, and I was like, that's fine. But I'll be honest, as far as like, if anybody asks me, I don't necessarily, I don't want to charge people. So I will tell them everything I know, as long as they know I'm not a doctor and I'm not certified for shit. But I do have a lot of experience, and I am a big nerd. So take that. But most of the people who send me messages with their frustrations, when we get down to it, 90% of the time, it's that damn keto bread that comes from the store. And they get upset when I say, you need to cut that. Try it. Cut it out and see if it works. What's the worst thing that happens? And just like people who don't want to try keto because they can't give up their bread and pasta, they get upset because they don't want to give up their keto bread. Now, we've got these perfectly fine substitutes. Is it real angel food cake? Of course it's not. Is that egg bread ever going to be exactly the same? I can't tell the difference in bread. No, of course not. Is it entirely serviceable? Yes. And does it have all the benefits of filling that role of a roll? Yes. Yes, it does. So, and I think that, Heath, you've hit the nail on the head. Keto's not a weight loss diet. Weight loss is a side effect of following a keto diet for health and healing. So, But they do get very upset when I say try cutting them out. I don't get like food police and be like, don't eat that. I say the first thing you ought to try to do is cutting those breads. I'd be surprised if it didn't make a big impact for you to cut those breads. And most of the time I'm not wrong, which makes me feel kind of bad because it doesn't feel nice to tell people to cut stuff out, but it is what it has to do. Oh, and the warden says the porky good stuffing does taste like the real thing. I haven't tried it yet. I really think I'm going to have to, especially since my porky good order came, so now I have more pork rinds than I knew what to do with, really. Because they had their Black Friday sale with that 30% off on the packs, and then I hit the lottery getting that 40% coupon. I ordered quite a bit because, well, why not? But now I have to find stuff to do to use the pork rinds before they go stale. So, let's see. Oh, and Air Frying Auntie confirms the porky good pork rind stuffing is amazing. So I'm going to have to give that a try. Guys, I don't like the syrup. I just like the plain angel food. Sorry for the silence. I'll make the joke. Talk amongst yourselves. No, I just needed a moment to chew and swallow. Yeah, I'm glad you got to use it, Nadine. That was awesome. So, and the warden says they got the huge pack they sold, all 5 pork rind crumbs. Yeah. Ooh, I'm gonna have to dig through my freezer to see if I have ground beef. I know I have some that's already cooked and then vacuum sealed, but if I have actually, it doesn't even matter. If I have ground meat in my freezer somewhere, or even some roast that I can ground, I feel like it's about time for a bacon wrapped meatloaf. Did you guys see? I know some of you saw Christopher, Slapstick Keto, and he made his cheeseburger explosion for Thanksgiving for a side. Though it looks so good, and I love those, and I love bacon wrapped stuffed individual meatloafs. MJ mentions food's very personal, so they try to say what they do and why they do it and why it works. And yes, that's 100%. And I am kind of preachy right now. I just can't help it. I'm a little bit riled up. Yeah. But I do that too. But if someone does reach out to me in private, once they ask me for my opinion, all bets are off. I am sharing all my opinion, and my opinion is definitely that keto bread is the worst thing to happen to ketogenics in a long time. So the recipe for the angel food was that I took Indigo Neely's egg bread recipe, and I didn't add any salt. I added a little extra cream of tartar, and I added I used a half a cup of the allulose. I think most people will want the angel food to be sweeter, so you probably need to add more, or some drops for the angel food. Like some sucralose drops or something like that to sweeten it up a little bit more. But for me, it's just right. It came out really good. As you can see, like, I'm not choking or anything. I'm not displeased in any way, shape, or form. The next thing that I have to wonder is, although it's, oh, I got a crumb in my coffee. The next thing I have to wonder about these to experiment with is if I can get something up in there to create like enough of a tunnel to put like custard in there. I don't think whipped cream would hold up enough unless I can make a stabilized whipped cream. But unlike regular stuff, it's pretty solid. So I don't know that it would just spread apart like regular cake. To just squirt stuff up in there by creating some holes. I think I would need to get something that I can snake up in there and tunnel it out and then put the custard in. And I'm not smart enough to have that figured out yet. I definitely think we should try. But that's what I did for the angel food one. It's like I said, indigo Neely and their egg bread. I love that it's not hard. And that's what I did for the pizza buns too. I just use Indigo Neely's, actually, I guess it's really Christy Davis at this point, because we start with the Indigo Neely base, but instead of the allulose, I used butter powder. And that is what I used to make the pizza buns. So it's sort of like a weird combo. And I really like it because once you take the allulose out of it for the pizza buns, for me, then it's just like there's no downside to it. It doesn't have, I'm sorry, for like enough buns for like 4 days, eating like 3 buns each day. It's 1 tablespoon of butter powder throughout the whole thing, and then it's all, the rest is eggs. So yeah, and the sauce that I used is it's not even a whole tablespoon of sauce in each bun because it can't hold that much. So that I don't know, I feel bad not sharing like an actual recipe, but they're other people's recipes. So like I said, watch the Indigo Neely YouTubes and Christy Davis. Oh yeah, thanks for the reminder, Naughty Nene. Put a like on the live stream. That really super helps out a lot. I'm just learning about the YouTube statistics, and I guess those make a difference in how they push your channel out to the public. So, and Mike Sandy has joined us. Good evening, Mike. Nice to see you. So, it's almost time, and just in case anybody had got to miss the brew, I'll just review one more time. This is the Belgian Balance Brewer, and the way it works is this is your heating chamber and your serving chamber. This is the brew vessel. This is your siphon and filter. You use a denatured alcohol wick lamp for your heat source. As it heats up, your water comes to a boil, and this rises as the hot water siphons over to the brewer. And then as the coffee comes to a boil and raises up, this has lifted because it becomes light. The lid snaps down, cuts off the heat, and so it cools down, which makes it siphon back over your brewed coffee into the brew chamber. And as a reminder, the fuel is denatured alcohol fuel, not to be confused with denatured alcohol, the cleansing solvent. So make sure when you go to the hardware store, you let them know you need denatured fuel that you are using in a cooking lamp. So, and they will know which canister to send you to. Again, these filters are a double-sided cotton muslin stitched with drawstrings, and I will not promise to get it done tomorrow because I've got quarterly forecasts that I've got to get done sometime between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. amongst all my other meetings. But the data only became available Friday afternoon, so hey, no pressure. So I probably won't get it added into the description until Tuesday sometime, but I'll put links to all of this equipment. This is the Neospora Balance Brewer. There are currently 3 or 4 manufacturers that have variants on this that are selling them in the United States. Siphon Brewing is, for whatever reason, getting like a weird little renaissance in popularity. So we're actually getting a lot of new balance brewers, siphon vacuum brewers. I believe KitchenAid has one now. Cuisinart has one now. So I'm hoping that since they're getting really popular, that now that they've got a bunch of high-priced ones, that if they continue with their popularity, they'll start price will start coming down, and I think that would be cool. I'd like to get a KitchenAid one because to me KitchenAid has always meant quality, especially because they've always stood behind their products. I've never had any problems with getting a warranty issue resolved with KitchenAid. My KitchenAid mixture is actually a classic, and even though basically the way I got it was I found it in the garage. It was a leftover piece of garbage from people we were evicting from the house we were renting to them. And it was in there. I'm sure it was probably meant to be some project they were going to do. But my friend Penny and I snatched it up in a hurry and went through a bunch of YouTubes on KitchenAid repair, fixed it all up. I had to order a couple parts, and when I called and said, hey, I've got this broken KitchenAid, we're trying to DIY fix it, and here are the parts I need, they were like, no charge. It's outside of warranty, but we want a happy customer. And I was like, well, I'm not even your customer. I found it in in basically garbage, but yeah. So they were spectacular in their customer service. So yeah, actually, if you come back and make some comments, I'd like to see more comments on the video. And let's say that you guys made some Balanced Brewing comments. I don't know, maybe something exciting will happen if we were to magically start getting an uptick in subscriptions. I can never say when some surprising sponsor might come up and give me something to send out to people. You never know. Worth a shot, right? I would say make a lot of comments on this particular YouTube. I will tell you, it's not going to be one of these Balanced Brewers. But it might be something pretty cool that you have seen on one of the live streams. Just saying. But I didn't want to just, I want to hold on to it just a little bit because I want to make sure plenty of people have opportunity. So, but here we are at 7:57. Oh, and the warden says they love KitchenAid, that they've got a KitchenAid roasting dish and it's the best they've ever had. Wow. Yeah, a lot of people think that KitchenAid is only about mixers, but they have a lot of stuff that's super, super cool. I will say, too, that I'm developing a love for Ninja Kitchen because of my experience with the Creamy. I'm not so sure that I feel that they have the same level of quality as KitchenAid because, honestly, that Creamy broke down really fast. I know we were using it heavy, but it broke really fast. So longevity, not like KitchenAid, which KitchenAid is a workhorse that will go for years and years and years and years and years. Ninja Creamy seems to break more quickly, but they were right on it with the warranty. So good customer service goes a long way. With that, any last questions about Balanced Brewing or Siphon? If not, we've got 2 more minutes, and I want you to know my cup of coffee has been spectacular. It's finally cool enough to drink, so I will finish this and then be able to go and relax in bed. I smartly remembered before I came downstairs for the live stream to turn my mattress pad on so I can get in there, and it is going to feel amazing. Oh, and Naughty Nene got an Instapot frother. Yeah, Instapot's been great too. I have a lot of Instapot products. So, oh, MJ says maybe I'll get some siphon brewer enthusiasts to the channel. That would be kind of cool. I love people who get into that. Someone was talking about coffee earlier today on the Two Crazy Ketos group and mentioned James Hoffmann. I have to say I'm a big fan of James Hoffmann. I love his book. It was great. But I also saw him when he competed in the World Championships several years ago, and he won. So I know that he is definitely a true coffee nerd, a true coffee lover. And sometimes when he says stuff that I'm like, oh, it's got me right in the heart, because he'll say like, not even worth it. I'm like, well, that's because you don't need a, that's because it's easy for someone to have, you know, a $400 grinder, but nah. Oh, Rhonda, yeah, my Ninja Creamy broke, and we burned the motor out. But it took about 9 days for the replacement to arrive. So we went about like 2 weeks without the Ninja Creamy. But like I said, they sent a brand new one. Oh, sure thing. Thanks, Mike Sandy. And it is 8 o'clock, so I'm going to say goodnight to you guys. Naughty Nene says Vitamix is another good one that lasts. You're right. Because I can't buy a new Vitamix until the old one breaks, and that's never going to happen. So, classic it is. Anyways, good night, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.